myself and a handful of other members of the front office had the opportunity last week to sit with leadership from ECS and with Gorilla FC and Alliance Council and talk specifically about what happened at the Portland match with the flag, the Iron Front flag. We had an opportunity. It was a really positive and honest and direct conversation. It was extremely reassuring to me. It was reassuring because we all stand for the same thing. We all believe in the same values. We all believe that the Sounders family should be one of inclusion, equality, and I walked away very positive because this thing that I work for and have grown up with and work with every single day is kind of fighting for the same thing, right? So what happened afterwards was the club sent a statement the day after, kind of recapping that meeting, and in that statement there was some language which put the Iron Front in the same sentence, in the same breath with a couple other organizations like Proud Boys. That was not fair. There were a lot of individuals that were extremely hurt by that. The fact that you could put different organizations that are fighting for different values in the same breath was not the club that they believe that they stand with and fight with. I know that I've had conversations with both supporters and fans and media and staff. There's been staff that have sat down with me to talk through this issue, and I think we have to be accountable. The club has to be accountable for our words, and for that we first and foremost want to put our hand up and say that was not fair, and that we apologize for those words and putting them in that context, because that is not what we stand for, nor is it what our supporter groups stand for. We have to be accountable to that. I think step one is reaching out to those groups. So yesterday we spoke directly with the leadership of ECS, Gorilla, and Alliance Council to deliver this same message of one of apology. And today is an opportunity for us to deliver the same message, for myself to deliver that same message on behalf of the club to media and to our broader Sounders community, that we are still the same organization that we have been the last 11 years. We are still the same organization that is fighting and standing for our values of inclusion and equality. We are still the same organization that is proud to hold a sign that says anti-racist, anti-fascist, always Seattle. And we stand in unison with our supporters with respect to our shared values. And so that's what I've kind of come here to say.
So do you get the sense that my understanding is the language that was in there came from the league one way or the other? Do you feel like that the league feels the same way, or is there some differing opinion on the way you guys view the situation and way maybe the league does?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complex question, right? I think the fact that the fan code of conduct allows some discretion to the local market is indicative of the complexity of this issue. The fact that the sign that we talked about in October of 2017 is allowed in CenturyLink Field and is allowed in Providence Park is indicative of the complexity of this, right? So we work side by side with Major League Soccer. We're working side by side with our supporters to continuing this conversation. And so I know that the league very much is following this and making sure that we can move forward collectively. Yeah.
I'm completely confused though, because the Iron Front symbol represents the same thing that you're saying. Mm-hmm. So why can't that be flown? I just don't. I'm confused by that. If they mean the same thing, and if you say that you stand by that. Right.
So I, like you guys, probably spent a lot of time this week kind of reading about this and trying to become more educated. Sitting down with the supporters and hearing what it means to them, those values are very much aligned, exactly what you said. That symbol is a symbol of inclusion. That symbol is a symbol of standing opposed to hatred. But it is also a symbol to some degree that has been co-opted by groups that have used it for divisiveness and violence at times. And that is fundamentally opposed to the Sounders' values. And so we respect the fact that that currently the Major League Soccer Fan Code of Conduct says that the Iron Front logo is not allowed in CenturyLink Field or other Major League Soccer venues, but we are constantly in dialogue with ECS and our other supporter groups, Gorilla FC and Alliance Council, to find ways to continue to push forward our values. And our values are very much aligned.
So there, from what I understand, is that it's going to be changed to trees and maybe possibly put on T-shirts and worn Sunday. Is that allowed?
I've seen some of the same stuff online. Our supporter groups they've got great leadership, right? They know what the Fan Code of Conduct says, and in our call yesterday, again, they were thankful that we had the humanness to be able to put up our hand in the club to say we took a wrong step forward with this. I think acknowledgement of the hurt, that gut punch that I think some of our fans have felt. Today, I am here to reassure our fans that we are still the same club that we were 3 weeks ago, 3 years ago, that are fighting for these values, and we are constantly in dialogue with them about making sure that we are doing and lockstep in terms of what's important, and what's important is celebrating our values in the right ways, and also pushing that passion, that fuel to support our team on the field as part of the cohesive Sounders family.
So they can wear the shirt.
Sorry?
So they can wear the shirt.
The shirt is the shirt is something. No, I'm not sure. We're still working through with that. They know what the Fan Code of Conduct says, and they're very smart about what is and is not allowed.
So do you feel from that conversation that there is a diffusement for not wanting to challenge MLS to change its code of conduct, change the definition of political, or I guess maybe I think they, from my understanding, want to remove the word political from the conduct and to allow stadiums to have the Iron Front flag? Yeah,
so I read their statement for sure, and look, today is our opportunity to acknowledge what we've said and the harm that's caused, and to reassure our Sounders community that we have the same values and believe in the same things as our supporter groups.
So you don't feel anything's diffused then, or resolved?
Well, these are ongoing conversations with supporter groups, and the tone on the call yesterday was sincere,
yeah,
and it was moving forward in these conversations and moving forward and try to find the best ways to move forward together.
The other the other question though that I have is that when you say that it incites, the Iron Front is co-opted and has been incited or taken to a violent place, used by other groups that are violent or promote violence. The pride flag, though, that started with a riot. So, everything that comes from that, and as an organization, I just don't understand how these things are different, or how the league sees that as different.
It's so nuanced. It's so complicated. The organization that I work for and the supporter groups that I work with, we are proud of the fact that we were the first city to get every single professional sports organization in the 90 to stand up and say that sport should be a place for inclusion, and that sport, regardless of race or sexual orientation or gender identity, is a safe space where everyone can be themselves and to thrive. What about carbon neutrality, right? When we were the first club in North America to say that we are committed to carbon neutrality, there were some fans that thought that this was not a statement of sports teams. But the club that I work for, with the ownership, with the leadership that we have, believes that the opportunity to celebrate our shared values is not mutually exclusive with success on the field. And I'm proud to work for that club and to have grown up with this club.
And then I guess that's kind of in line with, or my other question would be about Gorilla FC,
Mm-hmm.
Proclaiming proudly that they are Antifa. How does that kind of fit into this too?
Gorilla does so much for this community. we respect absolutely what their commitment is in terms of leaving the Seattle community in a better place. And their values are the same as our values, right? Community, respect, inclusion, equality, and standing against hatred. That's what I walked away from these last couple meetings with, motivated by that there are more opportunities for us to work hand in hand with all groups, with Alliance Council, with Gorilla FC, and with ECS, to be able to promote and celebrate the values that we share.
So you're kind of waiting until see what happens Sunday?
It's ongoing, right? We're constantly in communication with the supporter groups. We had productive conversations yesterday in terms of not wanting this to pull us apart, and not let this be the divisive thing that pulls our attention from supporting those guys over there that are training. And I look forward to seeing how we can do this together.
Go ahead.
I'm good. You mentioned the 2017 incident in Vancouver and how the team worked to get that signage in. Have you spoken with the supporters about the concerns about MLS perhaps being too heavy-handed with their edicts, especially given the fact that they at least had some input, if not control over the statement that went out on the fan code of conduct?
Yeah, so we were every single club, all 24 markets had the opportunity to provide input into the fan code of conduct. We sat down with all our supporter groups prior to the season to talk about the fan code of conduct. We are proud of the fact that there is local discretion in Seattle because we work hand in hand with our supporters, but right now that the Iron Front logo is not allowed in Major League Soccer venues per the fan code of conduct, and we have to respect that as a member of the MLS community.
Who originally took issue with the Iron Front logo? Like, where does this originate as far as even being flown in soccer stadium?
That's a good question, Jada. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have had a week full of educating yourself, and it sounds like you're coming into this with a pretty open mind. Would you say that you continue that this is all an ongoing conversation, as I guess the parameters of this is there like a limit where it's like, nope, this is definitely out, this is definitely in, but we're willing to work within this group? Or is it really do you think it's a pretty open-ended kind of conversation?
I think that relationships are built on constant communication, and these are relationships that we're working with at the local level and between clubs and Major League Soccer, right? And so I think the word relationship is, in a sense, the most important thing, and that the Sounders community, the Sounders family, is an ecosystem of so many moving parts, and these parts are constantly evolving with the local social climate in terms of what's going on and what's relevant in our respective markets. And so to say that anything is constantly is just defined and not moving, I don't think is necessarily fair. But we also at the same time understand and respect that currently the Iron Front is not allowed in Major League Soccer venues.
Do you get the sense that the same open-mindedness is in New York and in the league office? That, I mean, to be frank, some of what Don Garber said yesterday to ESPN sounded very not open-minded, and I'm just curious if you get the sense that they are also willing to look at the situation and maybe reconsider some of their past decisions.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Commissioner Garber in the last week about this, but we had conversations in October of 2017, specifically around the flag and the Vancouver incident, and that was very productive in driving the conversation, the fan code of conduct, to where it landed today. The fact that there is local discretion at certain markets is indicative of the complexity of this issue, and it's really tough to have a black and white policy. And we work hand in hand with our supporters to make sure that they can travel throughout the country and support these guys on the road. One of the things we hear from them is that sometimes the policies from an operations perspective in different stadiums differ. Portland's allowed to use smoke, and our supporters are not in CenturyLink Field. So to pick one set of rules and have that be proliferated across the league is really, really tough, right? And so that in itself is indicative of the complexity of this dialogue.
Do you believe we're in a time where people deserve a space to just kind of put everything away and enjoy a soccer game? And do you think we are in a time that deserves to dismiss what's going on globally?
Yeah, look, when I was playing, this sport meant so much more to me than wins and losses. It was the relationships with guys in the locker room that were teenagers, and when Casey was in his 30s and Tony Meola was at the end of his career, the locker rooms are very special places, and these special places are comprised of different languages and different cultures. And to me, this sport, the best thing about this sport is the ability to welcome everybody into a safe space to be able to do that. And that's what I believe that this club stands for and is fighting for.
Do you think that, to kind of this point about the MLS, I mean, do you think that there would be a look at the code of conduct, or kind of revisiting language? I mean, would the league even consider that?
Yeah, when in my experience working with the league, is that their doors are always open for productive conversation. And so we are constantly in contact with them in terms of what's going on in our market and what we're hearing on the ground, and being able to communicate that in the right way to the league, because the league is very much committed to each and every single market.
With the any kind of pushback, I mean, is this an internal thing, or are you hearing from fans that might be outside of the most supportive groups, the ECS of the group? I mean, as far as what the Iron Fund was originally from.
Yeah, we've heard from all types of fans. We've heard from supporters. We've heard from non-supporters. We've heard from different types of fans that have different opinions about what should or should not happen. I've had very productive conversations with staff in terms of we have a very diverse staff that comes with a lot of different perspective too. And so I think what's important is that everyone appreciates that that the club is standing up for what we believe in. The fact that ownership is involved in this conversation is indicative of the importance of what we mean in this community. And so, yeah, my learning process over the course of the last couple weeks is ongoing, and is influenced by all different types of individuals who are part of the extended Sounders family.
Will security at CenturyLink be told of anything, or or to look out for anything?
Yeah, so that's another piece of this conversation in terms of relationship that we constantly have, and we work hand in hand with CenturyLink Field and all of their groups to make sure that first and foremost that our match day experience is safe. That is the priority in everything that we do, is that there's a safe environment to celebrate the sport that we love.
There's been some chatter online about fans canceling season tickets as a result of this. Whether that's a large group or not is, we don't know.
Right.
Do you have concerns about significant numbers of fans, canceling their season tickets? And what would you say to those fans who are considering doing so?
Yeah, I think the purpose of today and yesterday is to make sure that everyone has the right information about what this club is talking about and standing for and believes, and how that is married with the same values of Guerrilla FC and ECS and Alliance Council. And so it's been tough to hear fans over the course of the last week say, hey, this seems like a pivot from what we heard from the club in previous years. The purpose of today is to communicate directly with those individuals and provide them and reassure them that this is a club that still believes in equality. This is a club that stands for inclusion. This is a club that stands against hatred, and we are constantly searching for new and creative ways to be able to celebrate these values. And ultimately, it's up to them whether they would like to be a part of this. We'd love to have everybody. That's this message, is that we are stronger together. The more diverse we are, the more varying viewpoints that we have, the more conversations we have to bring out these different truths, is only going to make us stronger.
Jada touched on this a little bit. obviously, there's a chance that things escalate on Sunday, whether there's a formal display or some other such thing. Have you guys discussed what you'll be doing in the event that happens and MLS comes down with some type of suspension or ban or other discipline?
Yeah, so part of our communication with the supporter groups was just recommunicating the fan code of conduct and what is and is not permissible inside the stadium, and then what that means for the individuals in the groups afterwards. And so I think that we're very much on the same page in terms of what the fan code of conduct says about if someone violates the fan code of conduct for any reason, what those repercussions would be. And so, look, we're a club that talks through every single scenario. I remain completely optimistic and reassured that we are saying the same things. And what's important is that we're saying the same things and we're finding the right ways to say it, and that gives me a sense of comfort in terms of we're going to be able to push forward at this together and not let this divide us.
Is this the first time since 2017 that you've had this kind of an issue? I'm new here, so
with
fans, yeah.
With
this kind of the fans in the league or code of conduct questions or something to this level. Specific
to Iron Front imagery, this is the first time that we've had this at this extent. From a business perspective, we're constantly talking to fans about a myriad of different things. And our customer services does a really good job of listening and making sure that all inputs and opinions and perspectives are passed on to the right groups, because our goal is to bring to life a cathedral of soccer on the weekends that empowers our team to be able to do what they do best, which is play the game that hopefully we all love.
With the TIFOs, am I saying it right?
TIFO, yeah.
With those, how are those brought in, or do you have to approve those first, or how
yeah,
did that?
We've got great procedures in place. We work hand in hand with the supporters to make sure that they have access to the stadium before normal gates to be able to do what they do best.
So there could be a surprise there, like if
there could or could not.
There couldn't be. You would.
Well, we work with them. We invite them to come into the stadium, and we are very much on the same page about what comes in and when. Look, I think this brings up a real this is a very human topic. The TIFO that was displayed at at Portland specifically, was extremely personal to me. I was up looking at that TIFO and was completely humbled by the fact that I was one of those players that was standing next to Roger Levesque and celebrating our legacy of championships. And that is extremely humbling to be there. And then at the same time, we have conversations 45 minutes later about the Iron Front flag. And so these are real relationships, and these are meaningful and complex conversations. And look, I love the message that they sent, is that our legacy of championships it's our legacy and the expectation, and I think that we can win more if we are doing this together. And I know that our supporter groups believe that as well.